Hello, I am Serena. This is the podcast about my life and what I'm doing. Currently, I'm reading Anna Runkle's Re-Regulated. She's the creator of the crappy childhood fairy healing method. Re-Regulated is a book, her first book, Set Your Life Free from Childhood or Complex PTSD and the trauma-driven behaviors that keep you stuck. I wanted to go ahead and do a chapter by chapter um, review on the book just because she has put so much great information together for all of us traumies, especially childhood ones or complex PTSD. I didn't even realize that was a term a few years ago when I first heard it, but I had been previously diagnosed with um, PTSD, but when I started hearing a psychologist talk about complex, I hit the nail on the head a lot with what they'd talk about our behaviors and triggers and things like that. So, chapter 1 in the book is the truth about childhood trauma. And she gives you a lot of symptoms and questions you can ask yourself, and just keep count of how many signs or symptoms of complex PTSD or childhood PTSD you have. She lists 16 in the book, and I have 15 out of those 16. Lucky me. Um, and she also gives you journal prompts, just so you're not just reading the book, you can also implement her strategies for working through it, understanding it. And then, let's see, she explains to you what your yes answers mean from that quiz with all the, well, it's not a quiz, you just say whether or not you have the sign or the symptom. And then she just addresses the fact that a lot of medical and mental health professionals these days don't get the adequate training. These are such broad symptoms that they're only put together because most traumatized people have them. It just goes into how it's not in your head. Most people are just told, "Oh, you're crazy. It's all in your mind. You're causing it. It's not really there." And it's not true. And she lists some of the physiological problems that are correlated with having a lot of those signs or symptoms. And it's interesting to me because I myself have several of them, 2 or 3 of them, but my family members have like almost every single one of them. And some of my family members individually, almost every single one of them. So this is obviously trauma that's passed down and, propagated on the next generation. I can go back talking to my great aunt, and she would talk about her mother and her grandmother. And she said her grandmother was the meanest woman she had ever met. And I'm sure that that's where my mom's ancestral line like takes a nosedive, and then it just affected like my grandmother. I knew her, but the way that she dealt with her family, and then the way that her life went with my grandfather and my aunts and my uncles, and then seeing how my aunts' lives turned out, how my uncle, my mom, and just watching it all play out, and then watching it repeat in their own children. And I'm watching it repeat in my immediate family. Both my parents have passed away now, but um, it's just very interesting to see how differently we all respond to trauma. She also lists the lasting wounds, the 4 hallmark symptoms of CPTSD, which is neurological dysregulation, negative self-talk, emotional dysregulation, and emotional flashbacks. So it's kind of like we have to, like anything else, we have to become aware and really become like the prison guard of our emotions and things, because a lot of us are not emotionally regulated, and we fly off the handle for the slightest thing because it triggers us and reminds us of things we've gone through in the past. It's not what's happening now, it's our trauma response that's ingrained into our nervous system that just erupts at like level 10 instead of dealing with it at a level 2, if it's even that bad. So, I think, like, if you realize you're in, like, an emotional flashback, or you realize, that you're getting super angry over something that isn't really that important, like, the power lies in realizing that you're in that state, that dysregulated state. You have to be, like, really aware of your emotions, your physiological changes, sweating, heartbeat, do you feel on fire, things like that. And as soon as you realize that you're in that state, you immediately reduce its intensity. It's like shedding light on something, like a vampire. You pull the curtains and they immediately don't become a threat. They start running from you because of the light. And it's like as soon as you identify it, it loses its power. So if you can stay aware and vigilant enough to be aware of those, you can start becoming aware of your patterns and um, becoming able to like fix you. And it's not that there's something wrong with you per se, but there is dysregulation there emotionally, neurologically, like all that stuff is tied together in your brain. Um, and so it's just really wanting to pay attention to all of that so you can, heal it. I'm also using a book. It's Re-Regulated Workbook by Sloan Merritt Vaughn. Um, they're like an accompanying workbook to put this stuff into practice. They give you the key lessons of the different chapters. Um, it also gives you self-reflection prompts, asking you questions as you read through the book. And then it also gives you action prompts at the end. And I think that's very helpful. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. So in chapter 1, The Truth About Childhood Trauma, um, the the amount of symptoms that I experienced were 15 out of 16. The ones that affected me the most are not having boundaries, so people will like me or stay my friend, or, hoping that my husband or my boyfriend won't cheat on me or leave me. So I've just kind of learned to let people overstep boundaries so they'll stick around. Yeah, that's a pretty bad one. And I like this journaling aspect of the book also, because it's not that you want to relive these things like in therapy where you just like constantly talk about the same thing and you never get anywhere. Just put your body back in that fight or flight mode because your subconscious doesn't realize you're not really living through it again. But as you remember it and you're experiencing it like physiologically the same way. So I don't know. So I like this journaling aspect because it allows me to really reflect on these things, be honest with myself, and like I said earlier, once you shed light on something, it loses its power, and you can start looking at it from a more objective standpoint as to how to curb the triggers or how to um, distract yourself and put yourself in a different mode instead of like flying off the handle if somebody spills a drink. So for me, the no boundaries and not speaking up for myself, that's another big one. I don't speak up because I used to get in trouble for that when I was little. I learned that if I speak up, I'm a nag, and what do we learn about nags? That men beat on them or leave them or cheat on them. I don't speak up because it's not safe, and I don't want to be considered a nag and have my partner cheat on me or leave me. That stuff is stuff I learned when I was very young. I'm 44 years old now. Me and my husband have been together for 16, almost 17 years, and I still have these boundary issues with him. I mean, it's a healthy relationship nonetheless. Like, I'm very grateful for it, but not every relationship is perfect. And this is one of those things where he can trigger me. And I've really had to do some soul searching because I I don't like being triggered. I don't like having to explain myself. I don't like having to settle myself down when someone seems like they're intentionally trying to put me in a different mode. It still affects me, like these things affect us in childhood in all kinds of ways. And there were some symptoms on the list that I checked off that I didn't even realize were associated with trauma, and the first one being overwhelmed. Like, everyone is overwhelmed, I thought. It seems like it when you watch TV or listen to overhear people talking about stories, or, listening to people like gossip, catch up with others. And, it just seems like everyone is overloaded and overwhelmed and unhappy. So to me, it wasn't a big deal. I just thought I had anxiety. It's just because of my overwhelming life. I was a single mom at 17. I was hopping from one abusive relationship uh, to another, and I was having to stay with severely dysfunctional family members and abusive family members until I could, make my escape to the next one. And I was kind of on the run from myself for many, many years. That's impacted me a lot too. I feel like, it's the world is unsafe. I can't trust anybody. I can only depend on myself. Hyper independence. So being overwhelmed, and then clutter also. I didn't realize clutter was a trauma response. And I can go from both sides of the spectrum. Like, I can rage clean, or like just want everything to be like absolutely OCD spotless, or I can just let piles of paper stack up and just move stuff around on my desk and just make a new pile of new stuff, and just like let things accumulate in different areas. And so I can be like on both sides of the spectrum, but I know it definitely feels good when I clean my room. Like, I do have a very nice feeling and get satisfaction from like the vacuum marks in the carpet and stuff. It's just very interesting. And it's interesting to note too that, these symptoms are a normal response to abnormal experiences and circumstances during childhood. So it's like you can try to explain it away or make excuses away. That's what I usually do. Oh, everybody has like a messed up childhood. There's people that had worse ones than me, so I should just shut up and I shouldn't be upset about mine. But when I unsugarcoat my upbringing and my early life, it's terrible. And I don't think I quite give myself enough credit how far I've come, the person I've been able to become. I just really feel like I don't give myself enough credit. I've gone through a lot, a lot, a lot, and I should, you know, I should accept that and acknowledge that and stop living in denial. So, there's some things that I'm going to be doing from the workbook. There are a couple exercises in there, and one of them, for a week, I'm going to log every time my body reacts disproportionately to a minor event, and then I can begin mapping my dysregulation patterns. And I know that I'm already expecting, like, I think this one's going to be pretty easy for me. But it's also interesting because I just realized also my eye avoidance during conflict with people, like especially my husband. Like I said, we've been together for 17 years. And if me and him are having some type of disagreement or annoyance between each other, I won't look him in the eye. I won't look him in the eye. I won't talk to him. I talk to him if I have to, but it's like he's just like pushed my buttons so far that I have to be disconnected from him. And it starts with the eye contact. It seems like that may have started with my mom, like when I was real little. I'm thinking like 3 or 4. I can just picture her like screaming at me for something. And like I wasn't even able to look at her because it's like that's not who my mom's supposed to be. My mom is supposed to be like loving and hugging me and helping me clean up the mess or whatever happened, But I feel like I was scared and just made to feel like super ashamed of whatever happened. And there is that shame thing again. I didn't think that shame was part of my backstory. I just thought I was saying embarrassment, but I mean, shame is like a higher form of embarrassment and it's the deeper rooted one. And I've noticed over the past few months that shame is the seed root of a lot of my emotional issues and ways that I approach life and my relationships. So I'm thinking that this is going to be very helpful reading this book and using the workbook along with it. I'm also going to write a letter to my younger self, acknowledging what they went through without sugarcoating it, and be the adult that my younger self needed. Just trying to heal that wounded inner child. So, those are going to be my exercises for chapter 1, and I will review chapter 2 when I'm done with it. All right. Thanks for listening, guys.